The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we encourage you to like and share them on Facebook and other social media. It's time to find out what is going on. It's time for the Sue Ellen Sanders Show with your host, Sue Ellen Sanders.
Welcome to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show, and we're going to be discussing one of my all-time favorite subjects here today on the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. I have with me some guests who are from the Florida Department of Health, St. Lucie County Department of Health, and we're going to be talking about SWAT, Students Working Against Tobacco, and we're going to be talking about tobacco issues, including vaping. Now, a lot of stuff has been in the news lately about the dangers of vaping and the studies that are coming out, and they seem to be coming out weekly, almost daily. So we'll be talking a little bit about that, and we'll be talking about how we, as the non-smokers and the people who are also breathing the air, are making sure that new generations understand the dangers of smoking. Early on, somebody told me that we're not, because even back in the day, and you guys, first of all, I have Esteban Mendez. He's the coordinator for the Students Working Against Tobacco. And I also have Sebastian and Nicholas with me, who are also working with a tobacco partnership. Mm-hmm. We'll be talking to them in just a minute. I'm going to tell you that as a young adult, I was a non-smoker. I called it a militant non-smoker in an age where people could smoke in restaurants, and there were rules for some of the restaurant could be smoking, some of the restaurant could be non-smoking, some of the airplanes could be smoking, some of the airplane area could be non-smoking, and as a journalist, I wrote about it frequently, and somebody pointed out to me that you shouldn't be upset with smokers because they're people. You should be upset or against what they do and not who they are. And as students working against tobacco, you're not students working against smokers. So there's a difference there. Anyhow, Esteban, welcome to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. We'd like to talk about some of the things. I'll let you introduce the young men that are with you. Sebastian and Nicholas. And they've joined us, and they're part of a core group of youth that you harness their energy and their knowledge, and there's lots of knowledge here.
For sure, definitely. It's an honor to be here. Pretty happy and excited to talk about. I am the Students Working Against Tobacco coordinator, like you mentioned, and it's really awesome working with the youth and just them coming up with just different ideas, thinking outside the box, really to advocate and shine some light on the truth about, tobacco versus all the myths that are out there right now, especially with the new e-cig epidemic. It's been declared an epidemic by the State Surgeon General, pediatric associates, so on and so forth. We see it's a very big problem, and I'm honored to be able to work with some youth that are passionate, and just willing to, have a voice and do some, changing social norms and such.
And changing social norms, the thing that's really funny, ironic, not funny, haha, is that you all, Sebastian, you're 19?
Yep, that's correct.
And Nicholas? 20. Yeah. So you all grew up in a time where everybody knew that smoking and smoking products were bad for your health. And so all of these generations of people who are beginning smoking or using tobacco products in some way, they know it's bad for them. At least some of the people in earlier generations had the excuses saying, well, we didn't know. But they know now. So do they just want to be bad? Or do they just want to be dangerous? Or are they just addicted?
Yeah, I can get into that. First of all, Sue, thank you again for having us here. We really do appreciate it. And I love the way you started off by saying that, in the past, people were smoking on airplanes and restaurants, and we've made a lot of progress. But that being said, there's still a lot of progress to be made. In regards to what you're talking about, through all, these tobacco products are addictive. They have nicotine, and they have addictive substances in them. And like you said, we're not targeting the smokers, we're targeting the tobacco products. That's our main goal. And this epidemic with vaping, with e-cigarettes, with Juuls, it's sort of the tobacco industry's turn, or their sort of new direction on trying to get back to their market of youth. And that's where we step in to sort of say, no, here are the facts. We're trying to educate the youth and the community on the dangers of tobacco products and the dangers of this new epidemic, e-cigarettes, and how it's not all, clean cut. I hear this rumor a lot that e-cigarettes are just water vapor. Like, they're not causing any harm to you. But in reality, that isn't water vapor that they're smoking. That actually has carcinogens in it that causes bodily harm.
So who do you think is spreading those rumors? The makers of the e-cigarettes, probably?
Of course.
Starting them?
That's their whole purpose. They're trying to sell their products, and it's a business. But unfortunately, that is a product that harms the consumer in both a bodily, emotional, and mental way.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a study that shows that using e-cigarettes can harm brain development up to the age of 25. And I think this speaks to a lot to the fact that, there's a lot of misinformation going out there, and we're here to clarify that. I actually, and for the sake of confidentiality, I won't mention their name, but I met with a friend, and it has been a while since I saw them. I saw them at a department store, and they were telling me the story about how they were sort of going through these tough times, and they bounced back, and so proud of them, just talking with them. And at the end, they told me that they didn't smoke anymore, that they used to smoke cigarettes, and gave him a pat on the back and all that. But then he showed me, he pulled out a Juul, and he told me that, but I only use Juuls now. And my heart sank, because, and that's sort of emblematic of the problem that we're facing now. So many youth and people believe that these Juuls, e-cigarettes, are good for you, or they're not as bad as cigarettes. But in reality, we don't know what's in those things.
So they could actually be worse.
Be worse, and it's starting to show that these things might actually be worse than traditional cigarettes, cigarillos, cigars, and all that.
It's funny because I just saw on national news probably a week ago one of the makers of e-cigarettes testifying and saying, we never plan to market these to young people.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know Sebastian's off and running here.
Yeah. So she got to me right there. So I'm in my second year of college now. I was a member of SWAT for 7 years, so I have a lot of experience with understanding these tobacco industries, these e-cig industries, and how they market. They will never specifically tell you that they're marketing to youth, that they're marketing to vulnerable populations, because, well, I'm going to tell you the truth, that's not a good look on them. It doesn't take a genius to find out that if you're marketing an addictive product to a kid, no one's going to like you. So...
Well, except for the kid.
Except for the kids.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
yeah.
Some kids might like it, some might not. But these industries, they predatorily market these vulnerable populations through subversive tactics. Mm-hmm. And it's funny. I'm going to go off, and it's going to sound like it's a little bit fringe here, but I promise you, this is how they do it.
Okay.
They use bright colors. They use happy people. They use subliminal messaging. They put people in environments where they're socializing to make it seem cool. All because they want to associate that experience of being happy and socializing with these cigarette products.
They use pretty people.
They do.
They
really
pretty
do.
People. They use social media that the youth uses more of. Okay, Instagram, Twitter,
Celebrities.
yes,
Yeah.
Snapchat, all of that media, that's not addressed to older individuals. That's the youth market.
I'm gonna put it how it is, real simply. I had the opportunity to pilot a surveying campaign in the state of Florida a few years back, where we were able to determine how these tobacco industries were marketing. Surprise, surprise, they like to market in lower socioeconomic areas or in locations where there's higher per capita population of children.
Mhm.
Why? Because they're the most they can be influenced easily, and they do it on purpose. They put these advertisements low to the floor so a kid can see it. Because let me tell you, an adult who's like, 5'10", 6 foot is not going to look at an advertisement that's 3 feet off the ground.
No.
A bright colored advertisement 3 feet off the ground right next to the candy aisle. We all know who that is.
Yes. And the flavoring and the scents.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's really clever on their part, but
we got their number.
oh yeah, absolutely. We've got
Love
SWAT.
that. There you go.
We've got SWAT on our side.
Okay.
So SWAT, Students Working Against Tobacco, is honestly one of the best organizations that I've ever been associated with. Everyone in there, super smart, intelligent. They're clever. They have passion, and that's what counts. Sure, tobacco industries have that profit and that money, but SWAT has a voice, and they're not afraid to express it. They're not afraid to say it how it is. And honestly, it's very motivating, and you can see their passion in what they do.
Nicholas, you and Sebastian are both involved at more than the St. Lucie County level.
Yep.
But did you start at one point in St. Lucie County and then expand?
So yeah, we got involved in tobacco control through SWAT. Students Working Against Tobacco, and I'm gonna call her out a little bit. But my mother, she we got involved. All of our involvement in tobacco control started because of her. She used to be a smoker, and she continued using tobacco products even after we were born and as we were growing up. And there came to a point where we noticed that our health started to deteriorate, and we had a choice, either to stand by and just let it happen, or take a stand, get involved, and see if we can help our mother survive through this ordeal.
I'm not gonna lie. The community service hours wasn't a bad deal too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Everything starts with a little bit of motivation, and
Yeah.
You're entering high school, and you're like, oh, we have mandated community service hours. Hey, that's 2 birds with 1 stone. Am I right?
But there's a lot of really easy things that you can do, and this isn't one of the easiest. It may be one of the most empowering. It may be one of the most long-lasting, and it may change other people's lives, but it's kind of time-consuming.
Oh, of course. I mean, my brother and I, we were involved in the IB program back in our high school days. This was balancing high school and balancing SWAT was, it was a commitment. But when you get involved with something so important, I mean, especially today, you have to stick through it. I mean, you just have to. And I can speak for him as well. I know we're glad that we did. I was involved through SWAT throughout my high school, and then I worked on the statewide board for a couple of years, and then I actually moved on to a nationwide level. I worked with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, lobbying for legislation in D.C. But all throughout all those experiences, you learn and you grow and you develop, and you get this broader perspective of what the real issue is. And like my brother, pointed out, these tobacco industries, they're really clever. I mean, they're so clever. Going back to what he was saying, and it all goes back to this thing we call point of sale marketing, how you actually market the product, where you market it. I was working on a little project, same one that he was talking about. Whenever you look at these tobacco products, you mentioned it, they got mango flavor, bananas, fruit.
I mean, that's attractive to me too, I admit, but especially to kids.
It's there to mask the sort of bitter and unappealing taste of nicotine, but it's also there to advertise to the youth.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you see flavors like Fruitylicious, I don't think an adult's going to be thinking, oh, I want that. That goes towards more to the youth.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always, and I swear, always next to ice creams. They're next to candies.
Mm-hmm. And the 3 feet off the
3
ground.
feet off the ground.
Okay.
Yeah, and, I mean, and from a business standpoint, that's clever. But from a humanitarian and health standpoint, that's dangerous.
I want to clarify, from a business standpoint, it's predatory. I am studying business.
Cleverly predatory.
Yes, and I'm studying business right now. I'm actually majoring in it. And I can tell you right now, businesses frown upon their actions. We want social impact and change. Businesses are looking to assist their communities. And the actions of these tobacco industries, it looks real bad. That's the best way to phrase it. And I also want to clarify, my brother said he went to the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, and he did lobbying. Students Working Against Tobacco and the Tobacco-Free Partnership, we're not for lobbying. We do not lobby. Our purpose here is to educate within the county about the landscape of the situation and what it is. And if you do want more information from that national level, which is, honestly, it's always interesting because you can see what's happening all throughout the United States, look into the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, the American Cancer Society's Action Network, and is there another one that we can look into?
I think there was another.
Well, Esteban, let's talk about how teenagers can get involved with SWAT, because we started with why they should get involved with SWAT, and the importance of and the plain facts, and the fact that when it comes from young people, even adults sit up and take notice.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why the students decide. The big main one is community service hours.
That's where they start.
That's where they start.
Yeah.
But once they start seeing the program and what it really has to offer, the skill capacity trainings and just being able to, you know, they have that self-realization that they have a voice and that they can use it. They get empowered and literally they're limitless. It just depends on their creativity. They come up with these crazy ideas that are, you know, sometimes you have to like bring it down a little bit, but you know, to be able to just show the true colors of the tobacco industry. We do different events. We partner up with different nonprofits here in the community. We partner up with the school board, Boys and Girls Clubs, so on and so forth. And we really just definitely wherever we go, you know, they get to execute what they plan, execute what they think is gonna, you know, I guess, be the best way to talk to their fellow peers, to the youth, and they also talk to young adults as well. But they're able to do it. I get to just be able to cultivate that environment where they'll be able to just come up with everything they come up with, and it's really exciting and it's very rewarding to see all that.
And you have students from all over St. Lucie County that participate.
We got different clubs. We got clubs in Centennial. We have one starting up possibly in Port St. Lucie High School. So really, to get involved, you can either contact me, or you can also just go to SWAT Florida, their website, and you'll be able to just put in your information there, and they'll automatically get in contact with me.
And do you have to be at the high school level in order to be a part?
It's actually middle school through high school.
So it starts in middle school. How does the middle school program differ from what they do in high school?
Well, right now we don't have any middle schoolers. We're actually about to start with Boys and Girls Club in their offsite campus over at Okamic. But still in the works. We're developing a curriculum for them and just going forward from there.
Let's talk a little bit about, you know, you talked about the community service hours, and that is one reason to get started, especially for students who need those hours. But at the same time, when you're trying to get attention paid to your applications for college, the students who try to do a whole lot of different things and be involved in a whole lot of different organizations aren't really as valued for college admissions. The new thing that they're looking for actually is students with a passion. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. So
I bet you do.
aside from SWAT, interesting about me, I'm actually a college advisor. I'm a certified college advisor, so I've had a lot of experience with understanding how college applications work, especially your college resumes. And one thing I always tell my fellows who I advise is that it is extremely important to have something that you're dedicated to, something that it shows you're passionate about and you have experience. Because colleges want to see not only that you can do a lot of things, but that you can spend your time at a specific organization and contribute something of value and significance. And SWAT is, honestly, it's a perfect fit for that. Even though you might not have an interest in public health going in, because I can tell you for a fact, I was there for the community service hours, you get so much out of it. You learn public speaking, team building, leadership. You learn networking. These soft skills that will take you just far beyond the standard high schooler or middle schooler. That's what SWAT gives you. Aside from that education about public health, which is not only going to benefit you, but it's going to benefit everyone that you educate. One thing that I know that I got out of SWAT was knowing how to speak. Learning how to publicly talk. And I mean, I'm even on this radio station right now speaking. I can guarantee you, if I wasn't in SWAT, it would sound a little
more hesitant.
More hesitant.
Yeah.
More stuttery. But I can guarantee you there's something for everyone in SWAT.
So you learn to organize your thoughts before they come out of your mouth instead of after.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm still learning that. Don't worry. But SWAT helped pave the way.
Yeah. Okay. Nicholas, you want to add to that?
I mean, yeah, everything he said and more. Actually, I go to Boston University, and I worked as an admission advisor during my time, or my first semester there. And exactly what my brother said, having a dedication or a passion into one activity, and you can just drive it home, is something that colleges really do value. And especially as something as valuable as SWAT, working in public health and really just exercising that ability to put yourself out there into a cause that matters even more. And also the public service hours doesn't hurt. But the colleges really do. They smile upon the work that we do as SWAT. I got to, I'll be completely frank. My SAT scores were not stellar.
Yeah.
But I do believe one of the big parts that played a role into me getting into BU was my involvement in public service, into public health, with SWAT, with the statewide board and beyond. And that really just helps you get an edge over other students that are looking to get that same position and that same place that you want as well.
No, we're not advocating for joining SWAT so you can gain an edge during college admissions.
But if it works for you, yeah.
It works. Yeah. What we're saying is join SWAT with an open mind. Because when you join, you're going to learn so much more than public health. Mm-hmm. And it's going to reflect when it's time for you to apply to college. And you're going to find yourself looking back and you're going to say, wow, SWAT really did that for me, didn't it?
Okay, so let's move beyond. Actually, I just have a quick question for you guys. You're a year apart, you're brothers, and you guys get along. How did that work?
Do we get
Who
along?
knows?
No, we do get along. He's my brother. We're 1 year apart, but I think that only that 1 year different, it makes us best friends.
Yeah.
We do everything together.
Do you disagree about things too?
So much.
You know what? I don't think so.
But would we be brothers if we agreed on everything?
Yeah.
But it's just having I would honestly say that shared passion for SWAT brought us even closer together as brothers and best friends. We were able to work together on what can be considerably stressful projects, but we were always supporting each other and everyone else we worked with, and that really helped strengthen our bond. Plus, we're brothers, so we grew up with each other, and we just have a good time.
Yeah.
And you got your mom to stop smoking.
Yes.
Yeah, she's been smoke-free for 8-9 years now. I wanna say.
Six years. Yeah, since we joined SWAT.
It's been a bit
Yeah.
now, so she's doing great.
Yeah. And I'm sure she's pretty grateful to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
healthy and happy and smoke-free.
Yeah. Moving beyond what SWAT has done for you, let's talk about some of the statistics that so if you were going into a classroom or speaking at a Rotary Club or a Kiwanis Club about the dangers of smoking, how would you lead into it? What's your general, I won't say cocktail hour speech because neither of you are 21.
Come back to me in a year.
Yeah. But, when you're talking about the need, how do you address it? Do you talk about a need for reform? Why is tobacco legal?
I think, well, the number one priority is a need for education, at least in regards to not only the dangers of tobacco, but, like we said before, the way in which the industry is targeting certain communities, whether it be the youth or minority communities. And education is absolutely on the top of the list, and that's what SWAT focuses on. Once the population is educated, then you can get into the policy changes and all that other stuff later on. But that's why we focus on that so much, because education is the root on which we can start seeing a change within the sort of consensus of how we view tobacco products.
Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're talking to some of the students working against tobacco, and Esteban Mendez is here from the Department of Health, and he's here with two of the students who have moved beyond the local level, and that's Sebastian and Nicholas. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. And if you missed the first part of the show, we're talking to Esteban Mendez. He is the coordinator for students working against tobacco for the Department of Health, St. Lucie County. And two of the students who have been with the program, the SWAT program, and have carried the message for 6 years, and moved to the regional state level and to the national level. Nicholas and Sebastian are also here. So let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's talk about those statistics. And who are we just talking about? A handful of people that are smoking or vaping?
No, it's not just a handful. The statistics show that about 20+% of youth are into vaping, e-cigarettes, using Juuls, and that's a problem.
It's 1 out of 5. So if you've got 5 friends, one of them either smokes or vapes.
Yeah, it's an epidemic.
Yeah.
Just like Esteban mentioned, the U.S. State Surgeon General said this is an epidemic. This is a problem. And I believe recent news, I think my brother can elaborate a little bit more on that, said that the CDC has jumped into the ring.
Oh, yeah. So I like keeping up with the news, and just last Friday, the CDC has finally decided to get involved because, well, they've had 94 reported cases of lung illnesses in 14 different states, which they believe to be attributed to these electronic cigarette products. So we got CDC checking in on investigations, you have the FDA cracking down, and I mean, it's no surprise. We have over 450 plus versions of electronic cigarettes available on the market.
450?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Whoa.
You have over 15,000 flavors. There's 3 generations worth of products out on the market right now. And this is my favorite fact. It has a lot of nicotine. One of the ways I always open up any discussion is 1 Juul pod is equivalent to 20 cigarettes worth of nicotine. And I see people go through 2 to 3 Juul pods per day.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. So the pod, I don't smoke, never have smoked, and I have seen the Juul cigarettes and the other e-cigarettes. So the pod, is that, like, do they smoke that over the course of the day? How does that work?
Let me ask you something. What does a Juul pod look like to you?
It looks like a whistle.
Like a whistle. Do you know it shares its appearance with the USB drive?
Oh.
And
yeah, and actually Serena did a presentation in front of the round table, and she had some of the so people, teachers don't know what they are, parents don't know what they are, so kids can use them.
Very easy to hide it.
Yeah.
And it also charges through that same compartment right there. And that's sort of the whole issue of the e-cigarette epidemic.
It is pretty cool looking
And that's what they're going for.
and dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the thing with the jewels, I've had a lot of hands-on experience with looking at jewels because of all the work I've done. And jewel, I'm not gonna lie to you, jewels are everywhere these days. And so you've got the pod that contains your liquid element, and the actual body of the jewel has a light on it, and it has your heating element inside. So it's a heating element plus a battery component. On the bottom of the jewel, you have the charging element where you can literally you have this little USB add-on that you can just pop right into your computer and stick the jewel on top, and that's how it charges. Literally charges from your computer. It's almost exactly like a USB drive.
So students can be doing that in school, charging their e-cig.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It looks like they're just.
Looks like they have a very long USB drive.
So that means they're really smart.
But
and
let me tell you the
powerful,
thing.
right?
It doesn't matter. It looks like a USB drive, and, well, a lot of people aren't up with technology, so they see this jewel and they're like, it's just a really long USB drive. It's the same thing. Like, you know how your parents don't know how to use computers sometimes? They see the jewel, they just think it's a USB stick. And people get away with it all the time.
And actually now they're making them smokeless. And
So you don't even see any smoke
no
coming
smoke
from it.
coming out, scentless, so you can't really smell anything. The way they're making these products it's just insane. They're making them with a sleek design, minimalistic type of thing going on there, and it, like you said, it does look cool. It looks very, whoa, what is this? I want to figure out what this is. And they're doing it specifically for the kids. Like, who else needs to hide their devices or anything? It's the youth.
But it's big business.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how can you fight big business? I mean, all of those different, the 15,000 different flavors and the 450 types, they're making lots of money.
Definitely the way to fight these kind of big businesses is education and advocacy. And I'm pretty sure my brother can get you a lot more in-depth information than I can because, well, he's had a lot more experience, especially in the whole advocacy and the big business combating.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When you put it like that, it does seem a little daunting. We're fighting against the big guy, the tobacco industry with these billions of dollars. But we've been doing it for years, and we've had so many victories. I mean, if you look back to the 90s, we had that landmark legislation that created SWAT and really made Florida the landmark anti-tobacco state. And, well, I say if we did it back then, why don't we do it again now? And we keep on going with the education and the advocacy. I can't stress this enough, how much that really makes a difference. In order for us to even think about changing the status quo in legislation, we have to change the status quo in the minds of the people. That collective unconscious, what people think of these products. You mentioned, you alluded to it before. Why are these things normal? If 100 years ago, if we had known the dangers of tobacco products, would we be smoking them today? And we can never really know. But what we do know is the situation that we're in now and how we can try to fix that, how we can try to improve the situation that the people find themselves in today. And also to protect the youth, because at the end of the day, they're susceptible. They're young. They don't know the dangers of tobacco products. They only know what they're being told by the industries. And so it's up to us to solve that problem.
Do you think there's a certain amount of young people who will try the product just because it's supposed to be bad for them?
I think maybe a few, but I think that's dangerous to paint the entire picture as that. I think the real reason why kids and youth get into these products is because of the flavors and the advertising and the point of sale marketing. I want to keep pushing that, and I don't think the root of that lies because of the fact that these kids want to be bad or they want to do something that's bad. I don't think that's a general picture of what's going on here.
But beyond the e-cigarettes, just regular cigarettes, and I know teenage girls and young women in their 20s who use cigarettes as a weight loss technique.
Yeah, so
Not that is necessarily working, but it does keep your hands busy.
yeah, so people like to come up with I would say excuses based on their smoking habits. It keeps their hands busy. Oh, I'm losing weight because I smoke. You're also addicted to nicotine. You can keep your hands busy without smoking in 500 plus carcinogens. You can lose weight without having a basic stick of cancer in your hand that you're just pulling straight into your lungs.
But like we said, you can't fault them. It's not the smoker's fault. I know a lot of youth who tried it just to try it once, and then they get hooked on the stuff because at the end of the day, nicotine is an addictive substance.
So can people get hooked from smoking one time?
Absolutely. You get that hit of nicotine and you get that rush of dopamine in your head, and then your body tells you that you want more because it is an addictive substance.
Nicotine is a scary drug. Unlike most other drugs where when it comes to addictions, it just affects the neural pathways, nicotine actually creates and modifies your existing and new neural pathways to be dependent on nicotine. It doesn't just block receptors. It basically hijacks them and makes you reliant on nicotine. And that's why people say those excuses, if it keeps my hands busy and I'm losing weight because of it, because, well, they've basically been hardwired to need that nicotine. And these tobacco industries are capitalizing on this. So the most we can do is get them before they even start smoking. We have to target these tobacco industries and educate the public that this is what smoking does to you. But this is how the tobacco industries are taking advantage of you.
So what's the solution? What is the long-term solution? The short-term solution, of course, is going out and educating people. But long-term, doesn't more need to be done?
I mean, long-term wise, I like to take a look at the success that we've had when it comes to like conventional cigarettes. I have some facts here. I mean, we started off percentage of youth who currently use cigarettes, cigars, smokeless tobacco at for the county 10.1%, all the way to 2018, leading on to 4.9%. So drastic change. I think you could go anywhere and you could, once you mention cigarettes or if someone sees someone smoking, it's already that negative feeling like, oh, that's disgusting, that's horrible for you. And that's something that we've been able to do years of advocating, educating. So that's pretty much what we need to do again. Cigarette smoking, that's all-time low. And now with the new e-cigarettes, it kind of brought it all back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much have to start again.
Does it help to have more places that e-cigarettes or regular cigarettes are banned? Like, for example, when restaurants went smoke-free and and in Florida was that it's a state that was a leader in going first, limiting smoking in restaurants and in public places, and then going smoke-free.
Absolutely. I mean, every step is a step in the right direction when we have those like that. I mean, if you look recently, I believe it was on July 1st, 2019, the FCIA, or the Florida Clean Indoor Air Act, integrated e-cigs, and it prohibits people from smoking e-cigs within areas such as restaurants, buildings.
So all of the same places that regular cigarettes are
Exactly.
banned, now e-cigarettes
E-cigarettes are banned
But
as
it
well.
didn't happen right away, did it?
It did not, but I think rather than looking at it that way, we have to look at it at the way that it has happened.
It has happened.
And it will keep happening if we keep pushing this new direction.
In my opinion, the long-term battle that we have to do is we have to make sure that people stay educated and people stay actively involved with understanding e-cigs while we still get more research on it. The biggest opponent is misinformation. If we don't keep pushing to the public the dangers of what we know now and how tobacco industries are marketing, there's not going to be enough motivation for more research to be conducted. Simply put, let's say we go back to those conventional cigarettes when they first started coming out. If that research wasn't done that exposed the dangers of cigarettes, then people would still be using them to this day, thinking that they're good for you, thinking that that T-zone is exactly what you need, thinking that filters make them completely healthy.
Doctors actually recommended it. That was before my time,
Dr. Smoke
but
Camel.
yeah.
And adding on to what my brother said, if our greatest opponent is misinformation, then the tobacco industry's greatest weapon is our complacency. Because if we get complacent with this misinformation that we've been given, and that we have been given in the past, like the doctors smoke Camel, then they win.
Yeah, that just sent shivers down my spine right there. I like that one.
So both of you live part-time in other states now. You're in New York, you're in Boston. How are things different in those states?
So I can at least cover New York. I'm actually associated with the NY Smoke Free in Manhattan. So they've actually upped the age of purchasing electronic cigarettes and those products to 21 years old. You cannot purchase any Juul devices, any vape pens, any mods, nothing until you're 21 years old. They have restrictions on indoor tobacco and electronic cigarette use. In the New York City area, they're actually pretty up to date when it comes to keeping these cessation resources and efforts available to people and making sure that youth don't get their hands on these tobacco products. So good on them. When I first went to New York, I was actually talking to the campaign, like, yeah, talk to them, see if New York Smoke Free needs any help. And I got to them, and they looked at me like, no, we actually got it. We've got it down packed. And I'm like, huh, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Well, there are some states, though, that don't have the restrictive laws, and that more people are able to smoke both e-cigarettes and regular cigarettes in more places.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And in Europe, anyone who's traveled in Europe...
Don't get me started on
Okay.
Europe. Oh, man.
That's a whole different ballgame right there. I know in Massachusetts the Tobacco 21 law was passed, and they're doing great work up there. The 84, which I would say is the equivalent of SWAT and the Tobacco Free Florida Partnership. You have a bunch of youth going to the state capitol, trying to get the omnibus bill passed. They're doing great work up there. And, I mean, like we said, Europe's a whole different ballgame when we start getting into that. But I think our focus right now should lie in the, in the United States and really getting our involvement in sort of pushing our advocacy and our education to another level here.
And how do we do that? Bringing it back to that. I mean, we're on a great direction right now. Keep doing what we're doing. But I think what's really important is we want to get more people involved. I think if we get a bigger community getting really informed with the situation that's going on here and getting it into a national spotlight, even local spotlight, state spotlight, and because it just all goes back to what you were saying. We can't get complacent with this whole issue. We really can't. For a long time now, people have viewed cigarettes, tobacco products as the norm. It's like, oh, that's just, he smokes, she smokes, they smoke. But what people don't, if people were to take a step back and really look at the situation, them smoking is taking years off their life. And if we can get the conversation going in which people start to realize that, I think that would be one of the ways in which we can really have long-term effects and a long-term impact on really sticking it to the tobacco industry and saving the youth.
Not only is it taking years off their lives, it's also taking years off my life.
You know
Let me tell you
what?
about secondhand smoke.
Yeah.
There it is. Yep.
You were reading my mind, because I was just about to say, let's talk about secondhand smoke, because both of you lived in a house with a mom who smoked. I grew up in a house with a mom who smoked, except for she didn't think that it was a problem to smoke in the car and to smoke in the house. And she didn't think it was her fault that 2 of 4 of her children had chronic bronchial asthma.
So, fortunately for us, our mom, despite her smoking, she was educated about that. She knew about secondhand smoke, and she made it a point to not smoke around us. So, thank you, Mom, for that, for not giving me any lung diseases.
That you know of.
That I know
Yeah.
of.
Okay.
And if I can add to that, one thing that's actually not really known of is third-hand smoke.
Okay.
In which, when you smoke a tobacco product, whether it be e-cigs or normal tobacco products, that residue is still left on your hands, on your fingers. So, say you smoke a cigarette, you go to get a glass of water, you touch some things in your kitchen or in your living room. You have a child, touches the same things, they wash their face or, use their hands to do whatever children do.
No,
that residue
I never thought
is
of
getting
that.
into their system. And that does as much harm as secondhand smoke, and to some extent it could do even more harm.
And to the people who are like, well, I don't have kids. I don't care about kids. Think of your cat or think of your dog.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, they can get cancer too. It's actually been proven third hand can give cats and dogs cancer.
I love watching people in a car stopped at the light next to me, and they think because they have their window rolled
Oh,
down that
no.
it's
No,
okay,
no, no, no. You're gonna get me
and
fired
it's
up.
not
You're gonna get me
bothering
fired up.
anybody else in the
You know,
car.
you know what really angers me though?
Yes.
When they throw that cigarette butt out of the car. Whew, that gets me fired up.
So they're littering on top
Yeah,
On
of.
top of
And
Yeah.
on top of smoking, on top of getting that secondhand smoke, which actually has those same carcinogens out
Yep.
and can actually make other people who haven't even touched a cigarette in their life sick,
or even the wildlife.
or even wildlife.
Yeah.
Then they're throwing the cigarette butts onto the floor, which contaminate the ground.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of laws are out there restricting parents from smoking in a car with their children in it?
I think there's something put into place.
Yes.
But
You know,
can't happen.
Because I'd like to
Yeah.
self-report people.
Not off the top of my head
I'd
do
like
I know
to, I'd
about
like to report
that.
people.
I would
Yeah.
very much like to report
You know.
people. I mean, even if it's just throwing that cigarette butt out of the car, we have one world. Like let's treat it with respect.
Oh, that's
Right?
a whole other
That's a whole other story.
conversation.
But let's
Yeah.
treat that with respect.
But
But I do know, I can tell you for a fact, when it comes to multi-unit housing, so apartment complexes, secondhand
Ooh.
smoke, that affects people that aren't even in the same room as you, in
yeah,
the same
you think
building
about
as
it
you.
because apartment complexes they share a lot of. They share their air conditioning
Ventilation
ducts
system.
and their exhaust systems and so you don't know that person who lives next door isn't chain smoking. Not to mention the fact that if they fell asleep in bed and the apartment
That's a
burned
nightmare waiting to
down.
happen.
Also, fire hazard.
Yeah.
That is a nightmare waiting to happen. So basically, the best way to phrase it is, people who smoke, some people don't understand that cigarette smoke or even that secondhand e-cig vapors, they don't discriminate against who they affect. Whether it be your children or your pets or your neighbor who lives in the unit above you who likes to move his furniture every single hour and you wonder, how do you have so much furniture to move? Everyone gets affected. So the dangers of smoking are not just to the person. They're actually to the people around them and the animals. And that's something that the tobacco industries like to omit. They like to omit the fact of secondhand smoking being dangerous.
or third hand
Or
smoking.
third hand.
And
Yeah.
if I can add to that.
Please do.
Yeah.
I'm getting you guys all
I
riled
know,
up
we
here.
just
yeah.
love giving the information. Another thing that isn't talked about too much is actually poisoning through ingestions of, and I'll quote it right here, e-cigarette devices or liquid nicotine. And I'll quote, as of June 30th, 2019, Poison Control Centers have managed 2,091 exposure cases about e-cigarette devices and liquid nicotine in 2019 alone. So when I say that, think of children requiring emergency department visits with nausea or vomiting because they ingest a liquid or e-cigarette device without even knowing. And it all goes back to what we were saying before. How do we stop this? How do we fix this? By educating the people. If people were to know the actual dangers of secondhand smoke and thirdhand smoke, because even now, not everyone, or at least very few people are aware of the existence of thirdhand smoke.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
secondhand smoke, yes. Thirdhand smoke, none. You don't even think about it. If people were to know more about that, then there would be more of a consideration given to one's actions and to the dangers of tobacco products to the health of not only the smoker, but to their loved ones, to their animals, and to those around them.
How about knowing the people who feel like they have a right to smoke? That it's a free country, they have a right to smoke.
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, it is a free country, and you do have the right. And we're not trying to take that right away from you. We just want to educate you about how the tobacco industries are manipulating your worldview, how they're using advertising to make you think that what you're doing is not necessarily bad.
In fact, to add more to that, we actually want to give you more of your right to practice that free speech, to practice your freedom of action.
Mm-hmm.
Because what more freedom can you have when you're more informed about the situation that you're in? You get that argument a lot where, like you mentioned, why should I stop smoking? This is America. I have a right to smoke whatever or wherever I want. And to that I say, you do have a right to smoke, and we're not here to impede your right to smoke. But what we are here to do is to tell you not only the dangers of smoking, but the reality of smoking, that, it's inevitable. You are addicted to a product at the end of the day. And after you knowing that, then you can make that decision on your own.
I like to think that your right to smoke is impacting my right to breathe.
Yeah, it can even go back to this whole idea of, and this is like my poli-sci major coming out right now, but your freedom of speech ends where your fist meets my face or my hand.
And how is smoking any different?
How is smoking any different? Exactly. And that's why we have regulations like the FCIAA, where you're not allowed to smoke in indoor areas like restaurants. Because how is that fair to other people that choose not to smoke, but then also, if they choose not to smoke, why should they suffer the consequences of others who choose to smoke? But again, we're not targeting the smoker, we're targeting the industry.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones at fault for this, not the smoker. Because at the end of the day, it's the big industries with their marketing tactics, the way they place their products, their point of sale, everything like that.
Yeah, it's the industries who lobby and make sure that we don't actually get told that it is our right to know and it is our right to be informed. So they have these lobbying efforts, and well, that's what they're good at. They're good at lobbying, and they're good at making sure that people don't get the information that they deserve.
And there's millions and billions of dollars that are involved in that industry.
Oh,
But
yeah,
there's also
absolutely.
millions and thousands of us working against them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I want to bring it to something else. A little backtrack about secondhand smoke. That affects the inside of people. And I'll tell you a little bit about the outside. You see, electronic cigarettes have this nasty side effect that other tobacco products don't, in the name of exploding.
Yeah.
That is a thing. These electronic cigarette products do have if they're defective, if they're poorly manufactured, they can explode. And even e-cigarettes, which are normal, that you decide to modify at home, have the possibility to explode. So you change the heater coil to make it a little bit hotter, boom, boom, it can blow up right in your face.
Imagine the physical harm, the mental harm that can do to someone and to their family, to the loved ones. It just have consequences that can reverberate, and that's the danger.
The scary thing is, we don't even actually have a percentage of how often they explode on you, which, now you think about it, is kind of scary, because you can't go, oh, well, I picked this up and I have a 10% chance of it exploding in my face. No, you pick it up and it might just explode in your face. You put it in your pocket and it might explode in your face.
You have 100% chance.
Actually, there's more reported explosions of the electronic cigarettes in your pocket than when you're using it, even though it's just one more case.
We had lots of information like this, and I'd like to throw it back to Esteban. We just have another less than a minute. How do people get more information about SWAT, and how do people get more information about smoking and smoking cessation?
They can learn more reaching out to Serena Dufresne. Her number is 772-785-6135 to join the Tobacco-Free Partnership of St. Lucie County. And if someone wants to learn more about SWAT, they can reach out to me, 772-785-6144, and follow our Instagram, St. Lucie SWAT.
And you can also get people speaking at your civic organizations and kind of associations. So you've been listening to the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. We're here every week. We'll see you next week with more.
Archives of the Sue Ellen Sanders Show are on YouTube. Look for WPSL TV or go to WPSLTV.com. That takes you to our YouTube site where you can find the Sue Ellen Sanders Show.